Hello and welcome to Big Little Bus Ministry. Thank you for tuning in for this special video. I'm very excited to have Brother Joshua Wells with us for today's interview. I've become good friends with Brother Wells over the last couple of years. I've actually gone out to his church a couple times. They have a Baptist Leadership Conference, and I got to know him a little bit through that way. And then also, he has attended our bus conference the last couple of years in February, and so been able to get a little bit closer to him in that way as well. And he is the bus director there at Parkside Baptist Church, and has been a blessing not only to me, but countless others. And he's been faithful in the bus ministry for many years, and a lot of information and a lot of experience that we can tap into. And so I wanted to jump into that. But he also has a YouTube channel. It's got a lot of great content on it. It's called Kids Ministry Tools, I believe. And he's actually the inspiration behind why I started this YouTube account, while I was there at the Baptist Leadership Conference, walking through his office and talking to him a little bit about his YouTube channel. It kind of gave me an idea to put some stuff together for bus ministries. And so, voila, you get to give this man credit for that. But Brother Wells, thank you for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. And if you want to just take a few moments and kind of let everybody know a little bit about you and, of course, the YouTube channel.
Yes, sir. Thanks, brother, for having me. This is awesome, yeah. And I appreciate you having me. That's great. Yeah, like I said, I'm Joshua Wells from the Parkside Baptist Church in Mesquite, Texas, where my dad is the pastor there ever since 2010. And he brought me on as the bus director in 2015. I was already the children's director over all of the Sunday school classes. And at that time, we only had 4 junior churches. Now we're up to 9 junior churches that we run simultaneously at the same time. And so, as well as over the bus ministry. And then in 2019, I started seeing the dearth, and the Lord laid it on my heart to try and train others to do what we were already doing. So started writing a syllabus for our college, for kids ministry as well as bus ministry. And then Dad said, hey, there's a lot of people out there that need to see some of this stuff. And so in 2020, obviously COVID kind of took over a lot of things, and so there was a lot of churches not even having services, and so there was live stream for a lot of different churches, but there was nothing for the kids. And so my wife and I started a thing called Mini Medleys, which is now everything's merged over to Kids Ministry Tools. And so then right after that, we started Kids Ministry Tools. It was actually, I think it was Kids and Teachers when I first started it. Then it went to Kids Ministry 101. Now it's Kids Ministry Tools. And so we've kind of kept with that. Yeah. So yeah, it's been growing. It's been going good. It's helped. It's in over 17 countries that have messaged me about it being a help and whatnot. And that's all it's there for, is to be a help. And so we enjoy being a help to others.
I know it's been an encouragement to me getting on there and watching. Obviously all of the game ideas that you guys have on there, and then all of the songs, all of the practical helps that are on there. I mean, it's a great YouTube channel. You should go and check it out. It's great. It's also great for bus ministry. I know it's not exactly tailored only to bus ministry, but there's a lot of helps on there that are, can be applied to those who are involved in the bus ministry. So really a great resource. So I would encourage everybody to go check it out. I'll put the link to that channel in the description of this video, or one of the comments, so everybody can kind of see it. But we'll jump right in, Brother Joshua. I guess the first question that I wanted to give you is, how do you keep a bus ride exciting to and from church? I know that even if you're on a big bus route, packed front to back, or a small one, as far as attendance goes, week in and week out, I know it can sometimes drag on a little bit and can kind of get crusty, or you might just be getting into it fresh and you don't have any ideas of how to keep those kids entertained. What are some tips that you could give on really how do you keep that thing alive and exciting to and from church?
Sure. First, I would say variety. They say variety is the spice of life. Not singing the same songs every single week, not playing the same game every single week. I mean, can you imagine the song director of your church getting up and singing the exact same congregational songs every service? It would get laborious pretty quick. you'd get them down. I mean, you'd be able to sing them out without the hymn book. And I think that's kind of our mentality is we want the kids to sing out. We want the kids to enjoy the song. But after a while, that song is going to get old. So that was one key factor is be able to spread it out. Okay, so I have like a cheat sheet of over 250 bus songs that we use, but we also do some junior church and Sunday school, stuff like that. And that's kind of like my referral sheet, so I go to that. But also different game ideas. We have usually the Sunday school lesson that is taught in Sunday school itself. We have our own curriculum that we've written, and we apply that into the bus ministry as well. And so they get a new lesson every single week too, and it keeps them all on the same page. So by the time they get on the way home, they've heard the same lesson 2 to 3 times and from different teachers in the sense. So now they've got it. On the way home, they've got it. And so it's like one great truth that they'll be able to take home. Another key factor on keeping it exciting is not everything's done by yourself.
Right.
Yeah, I'm the bus captain / bus director over all of it, but I've got a great team. And everybody has a job to do. And in so doing, they do it well. And when I get a new worker, I kind of feel the grounds of, okay, what are you comfortable with? And then we'll try and stretch them from that and get them to do more. But if they're not comfortable with leading a song, I'm not going to throw them under the bus per se. But we'll build them up to that. And I love including the kids as junior helpers too. So like when I'm leading the song, I want to include a kid to help me lead the song. I used to do 2 workers in the front at all times when we're leading a song. Now I kind of space them out because I have 9 workers for my bus route. And so it's well staffed enough to where you don't want 9 people conglomerated in the front. And so they're all the way through. On the pickup run, we have a specific stop or timeline when we actually start the program. But as soon as the first kid's on the bus, there's something for them to do. And if they're younger, we'll have different things that they could do. I mean, even if it's rock, paper, scissors, there's something for them to do. I believe it's the old saying of an unoccupied kid will occupy themselves. And so, it's usually not the good way. They'll find ways, and you'll have to clean up a mess later.
Right. No, I love the
for sure.
I love the coming up with more than just 5 songs that you do. Having a greater revolving string of songs than just a few. It can get easy as bus workers, I think, because to some extent we're all busy, and so sometimes jumping on the bus, you're not really thinking of what's a new song, which is one of the reasons I actually really like your YouTube channel, and I like getting those new songs out there, is that can help bus workers kind of come up with a new song. And you said you had like 250 songs, like a sheet of it, or a paper, or a booklet, or...
Sure.
So I know one of the things that we do on our route is, I think they're on the other routes too, is we actually have a song list, and it's not uniform. I think the other routes might have slightly different song lists, but I learned that it's been easier for me. I laminate it and tape it up on the side of the bus so that when I'm leading the program, I can just kind of look at a song and just kind of pick it. That kind of helps, but it is so important, making sure that you have more than just the 5 songs that you sing, and then
you'll have your favorites, but it's still good to have a variety.
And the kids will do that, all the time. I'll be like, give me a song request, and they'll pick their favorite songs that we sing like all the time. So kids aren't necessarily always super picky, I don't think, but I think that also depends on your age, what kind of, how old your kids are on the bus. If you've got teenagers, you can't exactly sing Baby Shark to them. So,
hey, your kids are better than mine. If I did a song request,
that may not be great on every bus route. Yeah, but and then getting, like you said, other workers involved and not having to feel like you have to shoulder the whole thing yourself. I think that's a really good tip, because sometimes you can feel like you got to do it all. But having the kids come up once in a while and help you sing, those are great. Thank you, brother. Those are good. Those are good helps. I'll move to the next question, and that is, you've been in a full-time Christian service for a while, and you're in the ministry, and you're juggling multiple different responsibilities, have different hats that you have to wear. How do you How would you say you keep a balanced bus ministry, not only as a bus director, but even looking at it from a perspective of being a bus worker? How do you keep a balanced bus route, building it, going sewing and going visiting, working on it, coming up with unique things to do, while also juggling all these other things? What are some tips or some things that you found on how to balance, your normal life's responsibilities and still giving, the bus route the attention that it needs to grow?
I wish I could say I was better at it, because I like things being organized. And sometimes you can organize to the hilt and it just falls apart. I've had that happen with bus maintenance. I've had that happen with programs. You name it. I mean, I've had it one time we had over 700 kids in one setting, and I learned some things that day I'll never do again. But anyhow. You live and learn. We were at one church, and they had reprobate row.
Oh, dear.
And if you were bad, you had to go to reprobate row.
I like it.
And if you're watching this channel, I'm sorry, but that's not a good idea.
Oh, man.
But anyhow, you learn what to do and what not to do. But anyhow, I would have to say for that side of things is learning to schedule. My dad taught us how to schedule and how to prioritize things. And so there's some things that I have to do today. And if I have time, I can get to my B list. If I have time, I'll get to my C list. Or however you want to categorize the level of importance. But learning to be able to schedule has helped me personally, because personally I use reminders on my phone because it syncs from my phone to the multiple iPads I use. I have multiple computer stations, and then next door as well for where the kids' services are. And it all syncs together, so when there's a reminder that pops up, I know that's next. And our children's program, same thing. We have a schedule of the program that goes on. So that really does help, is to keep scheduled. I have a set time that I hit the bus route. I have a set time. Now you're going to have, it is ministry, right? Ministry is not clock in, clock out. I don't think I've ever had it be that way. But honestly, and sometimes you throw a curveball. I don't want to try and count how many times I've been in the hospital with bus families and families of the church and whatnot. And that's not on your schedule. Nobody schedules those things.
Right.
But anyhow, so how to balance that? I would have to say priorities. Learning to do what needs to be done now, and even though you really want to finish this project, if it can wait. I hate saying that, but if it can wait, this needs to set priority, then it needs to set priority. Yeah. And that has helped me a lot, especially when preacher walks in, I need this done.
Right.
And so that set priority, he has veto power of my time, especially when I'm in the office. And so I mean, that just kind of bumps right up to the A list, and I try and knock that out. Yeah. But balancing of time, the Bible says, a false balance is abomination to the Lord thy God, but a just weight is his delight. So he delights in us having a just weight. So I believe a lot of that has to do with scheduling and learning to balance your marriage life, family life, ministry life. And sometimes it is like juggling. Right. And you're trying to keep 3 balls in the air. But a lot of that goes back to your walk with God too. If you don't have a personal walk with God, I believe you can get impatient with yourself and get to a rut of, I just can't get nothing done. But if you include the Lord with those things, not to sound cliche-ish, but if you leave God out of it, he'll be out of it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people, maybe more so in the smaller ministries when you're doing, a lot of, you're doing, I know big ministries really, it's really the same thing, but you have a few people that are doing a lot of the work. Keeping that the main thing sometimes is a juggle, like you said, and the power of a schedule and just making sure that you schedule things out. I'm very thankful at our church that we've got Saturday bus visiting. At 10 o'clock is the same every single week. And so some of that is kind of structured into the ministry as far as how my dad has put it together, and which is how it should be. If you've got a bus ministry or a bus route that you're trying to start, having a specific time, a scheduled time to be visiting, don't underestimate the power of just that part, of building your bus route. And then what you said, prioritizing things. What's the most important thing? I think sometimes bus ministries die because the bus ministry is not a priority. And on the flip side, you could go overboard with it, and you could just over focus so much on the bus ministry side of things that you miss the other details in your life. And I really appreciate the last thing that you said about having a walk with God, because none of our service for the Lord or our scheduling, trying to detail everything out, takes place for our walk with God. And as bus captains or bus workers or whatever we're involved in, even just regular life, we've got to have that walk with God. So I appreciate that. I think those are good tips on making sure that we're being able to have a healthy bus ministry, but juggling everything else on the side. And you're right, there's no real perfect way of doing it probably. It's just, not giving up and being willing, if you drop a ball, pick it back up and keep on juggling away. But that kind of does lead into my next question, which one thing that I've really learned from your guys' ministry, from you and your father, and just kind of watching you, observing, is I feel, and I think I've told you this before, and you probably don't feel this way, but I look at you guys and I go, well, you guys are organized. There's a lot of things that you guys do that I feel like 1, 2, 3, very well organized, and I try to glean from that. But what would you say is the most important thing that you can keep organized in a bus ministry, and how do you do that? How do you accomplish that? How do you stay organized?
Not everybody is an organized individual. So I've worked with folks that, they don't like organizing. And there are times when, I've got 5 kids. This is my office at the church. And there's times when, they have those 2 top drawers over there, and that's where their stuff goes, okay?
Shove it all over there.
Yes, it's hidden. But honestly, organizing is important, but at the same time, I think we have to be careful we get so organized that we organize God out of it. That's one thing I love about my dad, is he's organized, but at the same time, he's tender to what the Lord wants, and doesn't organize God out. He organizes God in, if that's okay to say. And I've learned gleaned a lot from that, and I owe a lot to the training that I've received from him. But I would have to say the importance of organization is less things fall through the crack. So basically, sadly, I've forgotten kids because it wasn't written down, and it burns me like crazy when I give follow-up information to another captain and say, this is a good stop for you, or they called the church wanting a ride to the church, and it just falls through. And so, to me, there's got to be a way of organizing to where you don't have that happening as much. So we have permission forms. Our permission forms are very important. We're about to switch to digital fairly soon, almost like a DocuSign. That way, we don't have to have the paper every single stop. A parent could scan on the bus flyer, and boom, they can do a DocuSign and sign the kid up to be able to come. And you can formulate that to go straight to your bus list too, if you're a guru. But anyhow, if you know how to do that stuff. Or you can there's a website called Fiverr. I believe it's Fiverr, something like that. But anyhow, and you can hire somebody to formulate stuff like that too, if you don't have that kind of knowledge. But anyhow, I would say one of the most important parts of organizing is actually taking the step to be organized. Look at what others are doing and realize, yes, not everything that they're doing is going to work for me. But what are they doing that I could do? What would work for me? I'm an ideal thief. Right. Okay. I take ideas from all sorts of different folks, and I if it works for me, I'll run with it. I call it inspiration. And of course, we have to adapt it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But anyhow, I don't know, brother. I would have to say that organization sometimes has to be taught more than just I'm going to do it. My wife's an organizer. Obviously we have 5 kids, so you can organize it 1 minute, and then the next minute turn around and what just happened? And so I'm sure others that have kids could testify. But I would have to say the most important part is actually one step at a time. One step at a time. And we didn't automatically overnight have all these. We have like 7 paperworks that are in place now. And it wasn't overnight that happened. things happen to cause that organization to have to go into place. Incidents happened, so we had to add an incident report. First-timer slips, because they would go to the first-timers class and they wouldn't have any information on them. They just show up. And so sometimes necessity called for innovation, and so we had to make our place organized.
Sure. Sort of staying in tune with what your specific ministry needs, you know, and kind of adapting to that is like, that's important when it comes to being organized. And then, like you said, you know, you're not going to have all of that stuff at the beginning. You know, there are things about even our bus ministry here that that I've picked up from other bus ministries over the last year or two. And I've adapted some of our forms and things like that by looking at what other people have done. And like you said, getting ideas from other people, I mean, you don't have to feel like you've got to do everything yourself. You know, you can call somebody, you can ask them,
right.
Find some good resources, whether it's like a YouTube channel or, you know, finding some books. You know, there's a plethora of books that you can get and read on the bus ministry that really do, you know, break it through analytically, break it down, and kind of give you the different forms that you need. I know that I think it's Brother Ray Young's book on the bus ministry. At the back of the book, it actually
Miracle of the Bus Ministry.
Yeah, it has a bunch of those forms and different things. Now, I know that book is, I don't know how old it is, but it still gives you a good basis, you know, to start from. You know, I know that, you know, having permission slips for those kids to actually be on the bus is probably pretty important when you get started. But, you know, some of the forms that we have is our bus drivers have to fill out a pre-inspection form, which I'm sure you guys do.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then if a kid wants to get baptized, we have, you know, a permission slip for that. So there's, you know, all of those different things that you kind of got to look into, but not getting overwhelmed. And especially if you're a small bus ministry, I think sometimes people can get scared because, I mean, and rightfully so. I mean, you do have to be cautious. You're working with children, and the culture and society that we live in, you have to be circumspect. You have to be careful. So you do need to pay attention to those things, but don't let it stop you. You know, do the hard work on the front end, right. and try to be organized. Too many, I think, you know, just because it's a bus route doesn't mean that we don't have to be organized. You know, I think sometimes they're just like, it's a bunch of kids, throw them on the bus, just have fun. But you can still be organized. And on the flip side of that, like you said, you don't want to be too organized. It is a bus full of young people and even teenagers and adults that maybe normally would not come to church. You know, they're not churched. They don't know necessarily how to act all the time. So sometimes you don't have interesting things happen all the time. That's one thing that's fun about the bus ministry. And I'm sure I like that, the reprobate row. You know, I would not encourage anybody to do that either. It's probably not the best idea, but it is funny. You know, there's plenty of things that you've seen probably out there that could make funny stories. But that leads me to my last question, and that is specifically your guys' ministry. Obviously, how many buses do you guys run total?
We have 14 buses, but 10 routes.
So, you know, you guys are a large church. You've got a lot of buses going out, and a lot of bus workers. And, you know, depending on who's watching this, what church, what size church, how they're involved, or if they're getting a bus ministry started, you've got to have workers for that bus, whether it's a bus driver or a bus runner, a bus secretary, or just, you know, bus workers in general. You've got to recruit those. So I guess what I wanted to ask is, how do you go about recruiting bus workers, and what are some qualities that, as you go to recruit, what are some qualities that you look for?
So that's an interesting question, because right after COVID, I mean, because before COVID, we were averaging 550 on the buses every Sunday, not even anything special, just, you know, running. And we had about 160 bus workers. And then COVID hit, and, you know, there was some folks afraid and whatnot, and as my family was too, personal family. And, you know, there was a lot of scary things going on. So our routes kind of took back a step, and we were still visiting on Saturday, still delivering food, still being, you know, basic bus route without picking them up. And then when we started that back up, a lot of folks had decided not to rejoin the bus ministry. And we were down to about 40 workers. So I was a little discouraged, to be honest. And I was like, you know, What are we going to do? And we had a Baptist leadership conference, and Brother Ray Young and I were on the way back to the airport, and I asked him, I said, so what do I need to do to, get where we were? And he said, well, you don't need to look at where you were as what you need to be now.
Sure.
You take with where you are now and build back up. He said, basically, if you were hired on as it is right now, you couldn't look back to that and say that's what used to be. You work with what you have now. And he said, just as a captain's responsibility is to get people on the bus, one of your responsibilities as the bus director is to get workers on the bus. So they gather kids, you gather workers. And so some of the key things I look for is people that are already doing it. For instance, they're bringing visitors, they're out soul winning, they're a Sunday school teacher, they're already involved in ministry. And so another step of that, because I think the bus ministry is the best ministry right now in the local church for the Great Commission.
Amen.
Because, get them saved, get them baptized, and grow them in the grace, right? So therefore, you find people that are already doing the Great Commission, and they're awesome candidates for the bus ministry. If they're only doing 2 of them, they're winning people to the Lord, they're having people down the aisle for baptism, that's already a great step. They're already showing good signs that that's a good prospect of a bus worker. So those are the people I kind of chase. Sure. Now, we have background checks as well that we do on everybody, and our church actually pays for that. Okay. And so if they want to sign up to be a bus worker, we run a background check. Obviously, background check doesn't cover the brain of what they're thinking,
Sure.
Only covers what they've done. But anyhow, that being said, that's one of the key things that I look for is people that are already doing it. And then the next group of people is people that enjoy working with people. People, you know what I mean? People person. Because it's going to take that, And there's all walks of life in the bus ministry. I pick up this one house. I pick up from this one house, and it's about a $550,000 house. Wow. And their kids ride my bus, And then, we keep going around Mesquite, and I'll pick up from a trailer, And all walks of life, We pick up in hotels, all walks of life. And that's one thing that I look for, too, is people that care for people. Sadly, there's some folks that only want to reach the poor people. And then there's folks that only want to reach the rich people or the middle class, and they have, I hate even saying this, but like a mind block or blinders on that God said we're supposed to reach everyone, right? So to be able to reach everyone, I believe there's wisdom in finding people that have a heart for everyone. And that way everybody can get on.
Sure. Now, do you guys do any special promotions as far as, not for the bus kids, but with recruiting bus workers in mind? Do you put on, I don't know if it's a conference, or do you have special service or anything like that, and trying to get people to come either donate to the bus ministry or maybe possibly have their heart touched and want to sign up?
Sure. So each one of our ministries actually have either a banquet or a luncheon or something like that every year, and bus ministry included. We have our own. We actually have 2. We have a bus breakfast that we do for all of the workers, where we try and encourage others to come to the breakfast. It's almost like an open house. You can ride the bus that Sunday. You can sit, and they're not allowed to really participate with a lot, because especially if they haven't done the background check. But we allow other adults to ride our bus too. Right. So you don't do a background check every rider that rides the bus.
Right.
That's just.
Right, scan them in before they get on the bus. Use AI.
License and registration. Get on. All aboard. We've had it even where homeless are like, give me a ride, give me a ride.
Oh, no.
They get off at the church and then walk to 7-Eleven. It's just
not a shuttle service.
Well, they know where we're going. But anyhow, no, I think recruiting workers is important, but I've seen both ends of the spectrum of being able to approach people and just say, hey, come on. But I don't mean this in any wrong way, but there's also a danger in that. I think there's wisdom in going to preacher first, going to the pastor, before you just say, hey, come ride my bus, come be a worker on my bus, because he knows the people, he knows the background, and he doesn't have to shed any light on anything. You could even simply say, I don't think that would be a wise choice right now. Or simply, they're overloaded right now. They've got a lot going on. and he would know their workload better than a bus director would. So that's kind of like the route that I take. But our conference, the Baptist Leadership Conference, helps with that because we do that honoring night every Thursday night of Baptist leadership. We honor all the bus workers, and each time we do that, I have people come up to me, how do I get in? So there's quite a few different things that we do. But I think the best attended is when we do a bus banquet, and we say, hey, if you're interested in being in the bus ministry, you can come to this banquet for free and just see what it's about, see what's been done in the bus ministry. And it's also very important that it's encouraged from the pulpit. And that's one thing that preacher does. He encourages it from the pulpit.
And that's so true. To be honest, a lot of that atmosphere or environment for the bus ministry, that the bus ministry can grow in, is truly fostered by the pastor, which is the leadership of the church. So to a certain extent, even if you're a bus director, you need to be walking hand in hand with what your pastor wants you to do. If you're trying to build a bus ministry underneath a leader or a pastor who just doesn't want a bus ministry, you're just going to be fighting tooth and nail, and there's a lot of dangers in that. And so most of the time, if you're watching this and you've got a bus ministry, or you're going to have one, you probably got a pastor or are a pastor that's on board. But yeah, making sure you talk to your pastor about everybody that would be invested in the bus or involved in the bus ministry. I think that's very vital, very important. The background checks and the safety things and security. I think people need to really think about that. These types of people are working with kids in the bus ministry, and so you've got to keep an eagle eye out. And I guess a lot of policies that you would have in place can help some of that, making sure nobody's in a room by themselves, and boys' side and girls' side and things like that can help with those things. But it never undercuts the importance of making sure you have the right people working the bus ministry, not just throwing anybody in there. I know, being at the Baptist Leadership Conference that you guys have and watching that, the time that you're able to honor all of the bus workers is a special time, and I really like that idea. I love being there. And speaking of that, as we close out of this, brother, what is a good way if somebody's watching this and they have a question for you, they want to get a hold of you? What's a good way for them to do that? And as well, what are the dates for that Baptist Leadership Conference for those who might want to attend that?
Yes, sir. So the Baptist Leadership Conference is here in Mesquite, Texas, and that is April the 8th through the 11th, and 2024 is the next one. And so it's a great conference. I would definitely encourage you to try and come. And then as far as being able to reach and contact us, you can either do it through Kids Ministry Tools, or you can do it through my church email, which is jwells2@parksidebaptist.org.
Man, thank you, Brother Wells, for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. I hope it's a help to everybody watching. There's not necessarily always one single way of doing something right, but get in there, roll your sleeves up, and do your best and keep those buses rolling. Thanks for watching.